Then we have the Syphian Treasury, and this is a whole different issue than most of the temples. The treasury here is based at Delphi, and Delphi is the center of an oracle, the Oracle of Delphi. If you've ever studied Greek history or mythology, you've come across it. And the idea was that frequently a city-state would send a representative to Delphi or keep one there so that they could ask questions of this oracle. And what you would do is you would give them some money, give the oracle some money, and this is an oracle to the god Apollo. And then they would go back into the temple, and they would put some things onto a fire, generally hallucinogenic plants, onto a heat source. They would start hallucinating, and they would come out with these very odd sort of ideas, these odd fortunes, where, for example, Athens might ask what's going to happen in a war with Sparta, and they would say something like basketball on Tuesday. Okay, it's not quite that bad, but they would say something, and it could be interpreted multiple ways, but these cities use this oracle to make massive decisions. So all of the major city-states had a treasury at Delphi, and that's exactly what we're looking at. It's basically a giant bank vault. Think of something Scrooge McDuck might go ahead and dive in. And this is a recreation of the Syphian Treasury. These were sources of great civic pride. So this would be built with the finest Syphian stone by the best of their artisans. And it's temple-like, but you notice we don't have the colonnade running around it. Also, the two columns in front, rather than being our usual fluted columns, are what are called caryatids. They're carved columns. And caryatids is Caryatids. There's also a decorative frieze, you notice, running around at the top of the structure beneath the pediment. And this is created by two different artists. We know this because there's two different styles that you see in the frieze. And what we're looking at is part of the frieze from the north side of the building. And this is depicting a story of the Olympian gods versus the Titans. And this is known as a giantomachy. And I'm not going to spell it for you. It's on there. It's right there. And what we see are both profile and very complex views of what's going on. For example, here we have a man wrestling a lion. The lion clearly is taking a big bite out of him, but we get a sense of action. We also get a sense of musculature. And that's something that the Greeks are starting to work on. How do we create a sculpture that gives a sense of movement? How do we articulate the muscles? And the way you get a sense of movement in a relief sculpture like this is by tensing the appropriate muscles and then putting the body in the appropriate pose. If you only do one or the other, it won't look right. And then you'll notice there are things missing, like the wheel on this chariot that should be right here. That would have been added in bronze. And the reason for that is it would have made it appear more realistic. This whole thing, again, would have been painted. And this is a central theme, not just the giantomachy, but there's a central theme in Greek art. It's us versus them. And that's a theme we'll see in the Parthenon and everywhere else. Basically, the Greek versus the other. In this case, the Olympian gods representing the Greeks versus the Titans or the giants in this War of the Giants, which is what giantomachy refers to. We're also starting to see some three-quarter view. We're seeing faces that are looking out a little bit more towards the viewer. So we're getting more complex poses developing as we're moving forward.